Former Air Force Chaplain Kirk Cizik tells me his military career started going downhill after his sermon that included scriptures about sexual immorality. He says never before had he been punished for preaching. Now he's hoping Christians will stand with him.
Men put so much of who they are into what it is that they do, and having that rug pulled out underneath me was very difficult to go through.
Former Air Force Chaplain Kirk Cizik is unapologetic about preaching the word. One Sunday in 2013 at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, he says that stance led to trouble.
The message was about sin that we don't think is that bad. If you're having sex with somebody that you're not married to, then you need to stop. I said, you know, sometimes the Christian church has gotten a reputation for being prejudiced. And because we look at one sin, homosexuality, and then we turn a blind eye and don't say anything about heterosexual sin. And that's hypocritical.
What happened next turned into a domino effect that ended with his involuntary discharge.
I found out shortly thereafter that a lesbian trainee had made a complaint about the sermon. I mean, she complained that I had said that all homosexuals were going to burn in hell. I don't know what sermon she listened to, but it wasn't what I preached that day.
2,500 trainees heard that day's sermon, and Cizik says as far as he knows, only one person complained.
We also had an openly lesbian commander working in basic training, and when she heard about the trainee's complaint, she wouldn't let it go. My performance reports were downgraded. My promotion recommendation was downgraded. I got passed over for promotion twice and involuntarily separated from the Air Force in 2016.
That means even with almost 30 years of service, nearly 20 of them active duty, he cannot retire from the Air Force. Cizik says while it's a net loss of more than $1 million in pension and health benefits, he sees a bigger issue.
Even if I did say what she said that I said, it's covered by my First Amendment rights to preach and teach according to my religious beliefs. I mean, either we believe that everybody has First Amendment rights or we don't.
All he wants to do is serve God and serve his country. That's all he wants to do.
Paul Platty is Cizik's attorney.
Air Force regulations specifically allowed him to give that type of sermon. The First Amendment protects his freedom of speech and freedom of religion. So quite frankly, we think it's preposterous what happened to him.
They say the Air Force never put in writing that the sermon caused the poor performance reports, but instead accused Cizik of violating unrelated protocols. He denies that, and after appealing to the highest levels of the Air Force, this is what he received.
Here at the top of the page, it says the reasons for the decision. And then they blank out everything explaining the reasons for his decision. But we know why, because he was disciplined 3 days after he gave the sermon about sexual immorality.
CBN News reached out to the Air Force for comment, and officials sent this statement, which says in part, the applicant, Kirk Cizik, alleges he has been the victim of reprisal. Based on the board's review, they do not conclude the applicant has been the victim of reprisal. The board maintains the applicant has failed to establish that. Cizik reached out to lawmakers and even the White House. The Vice President's office referred Cizik's case to the Air Force Board for correction of military records for reconsideration. But officials there refused to reopen his case. Now the Department of Defense Inspector General's office is looking into it. Cizik hopes Christians who learn of this will sound off.
We need some encouragement from fellow believers.
This is a time for conservative Christians to be heard. Letting their legislators, letting the White House, letting the Air Force, letting the Secretary of Defense know how they feel. The real intolerance is not speaking the truth. The real intolerance is preventing people from speaking the truth. That's the real intolerance and bigotry that exists in our country today.
Now that it appears change is coming to the White House, Cizik isn't sure a Biden administration would be as sympathetic to his cause. That's why he says time is of essence for Christians to speak out. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.